Hi everybody, my name's Paul Wellborn and this is Faith Baptist Church Sunday School. Has some exciting news. We're going to be having Sunday School in person beginning June 13th. So mark your calendars for that. It will be at 9:45 a.m. June 13th. So anyway, it'll be good to have a normal schedule at some point, and it looks like that some point is June 13th. So be in prayer about that. But today's lesson we're going to be looking at the book of Acts, and specifically Paul's sermon at Mars Hill, or basically there in Athens. Not Athens, Georgia. If you've ever been to Athens, Georgia, it's a great town. One of my best friends is from there, and it's about a 4-hour drive, but great place. But anyway, we're not talking about Athens, Georgia, home of the Georgia Bulldogs. We're looking at Athens in Greece, which is in Acts 17. So the reason why Paul was in Athens, Greece, he had been, and if you look at the book of Acts, basically it is written about the different missionary journeys and the apostles after Christ's ascension. And Acts is written by Luke. And so you have him jotting down what had happened, and he followed Paul's missionary journeys. Paul was in Thessalonica and had some conflicts and went to Athens basically to kind of get away from that and to wait on Silas and Timothy. So while Paul was there in Athens waiting on Silas and Timothy, he saw a worship center that had a lot of idols to different gods, and he was bothered by it. And he said, okay, why can't I tell the people about the true God? How about more than that, I tell them about Jesus Christ, who I met after his death and resurrection, and I saw him in his resurrected form. So that kind of sets the stage here. So Paul is surrounded by theologians, people who basically spend their lives looking at religious studies. And so these were pretty intelligent people that knew how to debate. So, and when you think about the different settings, and the point of this, by the way, is it's an educational lesson about the Apostle Paul and what he encountered in Acts chapter 17. The application to us is, how do we witness to people, and how do we, especially folks that have already a religious mindset where they are focused on something, thinking, okay, I believe in this higher calling or whatever, and it's not Christianity. It's not the good old, you live in the South and everybody goes to church or whatever. It's folks that might be in a different city or wherever, or even around here. We love Washington, D.C., and they have a great metro. And, when you're on the metro and you hop on it, it's pretty quick. The doors open and shut really, really quickly. It's like, okay, you need to get on. When you're on there, at least for me, I don't make eye contact with other people. I just kind of look down or stare, or if I'm with some people, talk to them and then quickly exit. You don't really take time to talk to somebody. And I'm one of these where I'm an extroverted introvert, so it's a struggle for me to encounter people and start talking to them. A lot of times I don't want people to talk to me. I just want to get in and get out without somebody chatting. If somebody starts talking to me, I'm kind of like, what do they want, And I'm sure you are too. So for us as Christians, whenever we witness to somebody, it can be a challenge. You don't want to seem like you're part of some kind of weird cult, or people might be thrown off. So anyway, I think I'm about to have a guest appearance from one of the cats. I can hear Alex coming up. Anyway, Acts chapter 17, verses 16 through 18. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, waiting for Silas and Timothy, he was deeply distressed when he saw the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with Jews and those who worship God, as well as the marketplace, every day with those who happened to be there. Some of the Epicureans and Stoic philosophers also debated with him, and some said, what is this ignorant fellow off trying to say? What is show off trying to say? Others replied, he seems to be a preacher of foreign deities, because he was telling the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. Remember, he had seen Christ, and he had had that transformation, and it was in his post-resurrected form. So Paul is talking to the Epicureans and the Stoic philosophers, and this week I had a discussion with some people I work with and also some of my friends about pronouns and the usage of pronouns. You're seeing that, folks. A person made a statement this week, a singer, and she said that she is now referring to herself as they and them, I think, as the pronouns, which is confusing because you're talking about a singular person, but then you're saying they. The whole thing is confusing. But anyway, my first reaction to that is just like, okay, she's nuts and just trying to get attention for herself. But then I had to think, okay, there's a need somewhere in this person's life to feel like they need attention in some form or whatever. And I thought, okay, God moment, I need to kind of humble myself and say a prayer for this person. They're obviously having some issues. And I think for us, whenever we see folks and we're like, they're just weird. That's crazy. Yeah, they're part of the reason why this world is in such bad shape. Well, there's a reason why these folks are like this. And you can psychologically diagnose somebody and say, well, they had this or that in their past or whatever. But really it comes down to just people have needs and they express themselves in different ways. So whenever you talk to somebody, what kind of answer do you give them, or how can you express to them how your needs are met through Jesus Christ and are continuing to be met as a message of hope? The Epicureans and the Stoic philosophers, the Epicureans basically believe there's no afterlife, that this is basically all there is. The Stoics believed that the more knowledge you have, the more informed you are. And so they had this kind of pantheist belief where there was many gods. Stoic, also they actually believed in being very calm and stoic in appearance. And so if you hear that in modern day language, that person was very stoic. The Stoic philosophers, very intelligent people. These are not, dumb people, but they are misinformed and they have put their trust in the wrong places. So Paul was basically telling them, and you think about this, and I'm looking at my notes here. Many people want to discuss philosophy, and you can really get into a discussion with somebody and just go in circles about philosophy. And I've been there myself, where you can waste a lot of time just talking to somebody, and you're not going to change your mind, they're not going to change your mind, and it's just a lot of just talking in circles. Now, it's good to talk to somebody in depth, especially somebody like this, because they want to see how invested you are in your faith. It's almost a test. So if they see you and think, okay, they've just, been to Sunday school and made flower pots and vacation Bible school when they were little from clothes hanger, the wooden pins, and they used old 2-liter bottles to make flower pots or whatever, that's about it as far as their faith and what they've had in their past. Or, yeah, it's just a crutch. You trust in Christ because you've had a lot of bad stuff happen to you, and it's just a crutch. And so people, you have to be careful whenever you see situations like that. And so, Acts 17 verses 22 through 23, Paul stood in the middle of the Areopagus. It was basically the temple area that they had, or worship area that the folks had set up, and said, "People of Athens, I see you are extremely religious in every respect. For I was passing through and observed the objects of your worship. I even found an altar to which was inscribed, 'To an unknown God.' Therefore, what you worship in ignorance, this I proclaim to you." So he saw an opportunity and saw this one little area, and I don't know if it was candles or whatever lit, and it was to the unknown God. And Paul's like, this is the God. Let me tell you about this unknown God that you really don't know about, and let me help you get to know God better. And so Paul went into this. And so, you think about conversations with somebody, what are some things, and, really a lot of it is listening. Ask somebody, how did you get here? Tell me your story. I like to refer to people as having chapters. And they do. People have different chapters in their lives. What are some of the most difficult things that you've experienced? And the older you get, people will say, I've experienced the death of a loved one. It's something I see as common ground, especially for myself. What role did religion have in your life growing up? Last week at a band banquet, one of the students is now, or one of the former band students is a student at ECU, and we were talking to this person, and they are in church now at East Carolina. And I said, that's interesting, you're in church at college. And so we were all kind of listening to this person talk. And she said, yeah, I really have gotten close to Christ. I actually became a believer, and it was through a friend of hers in college inviting her to a baptism service. And so it just went from there as far as, well, why are you getting baptized? And this is why. And so I asked this person, I said, did you grow up in church around here? And she said, no, I think she had kind of a split home. And she said, no, we didn't. There was no church background. When I was very little, maybe, but other than that, there was not. And so in college, one of her friends, she saw Christ in her friend and then got involved in church. How would you describe yourself? Would you say that you're spiritual? And some people may say, yeah, I believe in uh, the good book or the man upstairs or whatever. Um, what kind of things have given you meaning? A lot of people struggling with meaning right now. It's like, okay, do I have meaning? Do I have purpose? What's my future? That sort of thing. A lot of questions. And for us, our future is ultimately in heaven. This is not our final destination. So, looking at Acts chapter 17, verses 30 through 31, Paul then, he said, therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, God now commands all people everywhere to repent, because he has set a day when he's going to judge the world in righteousness by the man, and that's a capital M for man, referring to Jesus Christ, that he has appointed. He has provided proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. And so Paul was then telling them about his experience with Christ after his resurrection and how he had been a changed person. Because remember, Paul had grown up very religious of the Hebrew faith. He knew the law, and he was basically trying to persecute these people that were following this prophet because they were corrupting what he saw as the ancient Hebrew religion. And after meeting the prophet that had been crucified on the cross and then beat death and had done something different than any other, and I say prophet very loosely, any other religious person had done, he saw that Jesus truly was the Son of God, and who he was in flesh, reincarnated, had beaten death, and not just. Anyway, you get the point. I'm rambling here. So Paul was a changed person. He was telling them about this. So, wrapping it up, we're almost at 12 minutes. What can you do to be a testimony to somebody that you encounter each and every moment in life, whether it's public transportation, just like I mentioned, I know there's not a metro around here. Wish there was, that'd be nice. But or just into any different encounters that you are. And just be mindful of the situation. Some folks don't want to talk. Some folks might want to engage in a conversation. And sometimes you might have to get over your own, like I'm one of these where I'm like, I'm on a time frame. I want to get in and get out. And you may have to say, okay, let me just step back and listen to this person. They have a need. And not think, they're weird, they're crazy. They're the reason why this world is just a big mess. Look at them as another soul. Look at them as I think the Ghost of Christmas Past, or maybe it was Jacob Marley told Scrooge, fellow travelers to the grave and beyond, and one of two places that folks are going. So looking at people, thinking about that, they have a soul. How can you influence them, and how can you share the gospel? That's it. Hope to see everybody next week. Hope you have a great week. Please keep cool. It's going to be hot this week.